Hello again, and welcome to another episode of The Addict's Advocate. I'm your host, Dusty Dean, and it is my pleasure to introduce a new acquaintance of mine by the name of Julie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, thanks for doing this on a Sunday afternoon. I tell you, this is the power of the internet. We get to talk coast to coast here. You're on the East Coast, and I'm here on the West Coast. So that's kind of a cool thing, the power of social media, the positive power of social media, right?
Yes, definitely.
Um, So anyway, you've reached out to me, and I'm very appreciative that you want to share your story. And I really just kind of make this a conversation between us and kind of just see where it goes, the topics that we talk about, and kind of have some fun with it. And it's more so, the original inception of this idea for me was just to let other people in this world know that they're not alone. The ones that are afraid to go to meetings, the ones that are afraid to get treatment. There's really some great people, brilliant people, empathetic people that I've encountered in my own sobriety journey, and it's something that I want to share with the world to make it less scary for those that are going. I have a problem, but heaven forbid I step myself into a detox or something because they have a stereotype about what sort of person they might be interfacing with, and that's just I just want to squash that once and for all. So they're people just like you and me, and people that have accomplished a lot in their lives, people that have families. And so I think that it's good to get to all walks of life, sharing their story, because I think it'll resonate even with just one person and give them the courage to go and seek help. So that's the
Yeah,
mission of the Addicts
absolutely.
Advocate. Yeah. So, but without further ado, I'm going to kind of give the floor to you and let you talk about your story of recovery. How did it start? How did it happen? What made you seek help? And let you go with it.
Okay, so I feel like my story is a little different because I was definitely led. I got arrested a lot, and that kind of led me to finally getting clean. So where I started was I very young. I always wanted to be older. Like I never like watched cartoons. I was always like into like hanging out with the adults. I never like found interest in doing anything that like kids would do. So when I was about 15, I started, like smoking marijuana, drinking, hanging out with friends, sneaking around, sneaking out of our houses, like doing that at 15 years old. I was going to clubs with my aunt at like 15 years old, so I started very young. Um, and then probably around 16, I was hanging out with, like, me and my sister, we were hanging out with this like crowd of people, and they were a little bit older than us. And I was dating this guy at the time. He was older than me, and we started like going to like house parties, and I was introduced to a lot of things hanging out with him. Needless to say, I did with him, I started doing like ecstasy, coke, um a little bit of like heroin here and there, but like, and pills. Like I started basically everything at 16 until probably around 17. I was a senior in high school, and I was actually, in my story, mind you, is always, there's always usually a guy attached to it as well, because I think that drugs aren't the only issue. We also have these like negative behaviors. We have like codependency. There's a lot of things that stem from addiction aside from the actual use. So, at 17 years old, me and my mom were living together in an apartment, and she ended up going back to live with my stepdad. And she left me the apartment. I was in high school. I was 17 years old. She left me the apartment, and I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I can do whatever I want. Like, no one's watching me. I can do whatever I want. And the guy that I was dating at the time, he wanted to use heroin and coke like almost every night. And that's what we did. Like I very early on, and like as soon as heroin is my drug of choice, I, latched onto it and went on. I graduated high school. Thank God. I don't really know how, but from there I latched on to heroin and I just went down a roller coaster. I lost myself, who I was. I didn't even know, the person that you're looking at right now definitely isn't who I was. I can't even comprehend some of the things that I did in my addiction. You know what I mean? um, so this went on for years, about 6 years. I was using heroin, doing whatever I had to do, finding ways and means to get more. That's my story. It didn't matter. I could tell you every bad thing that I did, but I'm sure we all did bad stuff, So I'm sure if you're in recovery, you can understand that we would go above and beyond to get our drug. And that's exactly what I would do. There's a lot of shame that is attached to some of the things that I did in my active addiction that carried on for years after, So probably around, I think I was 19 years old, um I overdosed and in the McDonald's parking lot, and this woman was walking by, and because the guy that I was with, he left me in the parking lot basically, and she walked by, she found me, and I was blue. They called the ambulance. I almost died. That woman saved me. I don't know who she is, where she came from, or what, but I was brought back to life. And from there, I woke up in the hospital. I'm like, what happened? Like, trying to call somebody to pick me up. I'm like, I need to get out of here. And the police came and they're like, no, actually, you're arrested and we're taking you with us. So that was my first experience of getting arrested. I went there and I ended up, my dad actually bailed me out. And, that was my story. I would run, get arrested. I was on house arrest. I went to prison for a year because, I was on probation for a couple charges that I had. And of course, I wasn't complying with my probation. So I ended up, getting arrested. And then they were finally like, you can't keep doing this. You're going to prison. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not a criminal. I was like, wait a second, I'm not a criminal. I am just a person that uses drugs. That's all. I'm not hurting anybody else. And in my mind, that's, I didn't think that I was hurting anyone else but myself. But we know that's not true. We hurt everyone around us when we're using. So I ended up doing the year in prison, got out, did the same thing. I got out. I started using again. I was on the run right away. A month later, so I'm from North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina. And I drove up here where I live now in New Jersey and to buy drugs. We made a run. We were making a little run to come up here, come back, do whatever. And I ended up getting arrested in New Jersey. And they brought me in and they're like, oh, you're going to jail. They found a bunch of stuff on us. And I ended up going to Middlesex County Jail in New Jersey. And I was like, I had no idea where I was. I didn't know anyone, thank God, by literally the grace of God, my mom lives in New Jersey. She moved here years before I actually made this run, but I ended up sitting in jail for 10 months. And then while I was in jail, I did a drug program. And from there, I had someone come in. It was a task evaluator from drug court. So I ended up getting drug court for these charges that I had because I had been, like I said, in prison and everything in North Carolina. So I told the task evaluator, I was like, because from being in there for 10 months and just having a clear mind and not using a substance, I was like, this is not what I want. Like, I don't want to live this way. There has to be something better, you know? I'm running, but what am I running from? Like, I wanted to find out. Like, I know what this is. I know what using does, and I know how it makes me feel, but I don't know how it is to live life. I've been using since I was so young. You know, I didn't know. Sorry, my cat's like jumping around.
It's okay.
So I told the task evaluator, I was like, I need long-term treatment. I need long-term treatment because I had, like, prior to this, I had gone to 2 other treatment facilities for about 28 days. So I only, in that period of time, I stayed clean for about 3 months. Like, that was before all of, you know, the stuff in New Jersey. I was clean for about 3 months, and that was only because I was living in a sober living house. And it really helped me, you know, it helped me in that 3 months, but like, I wasn't ready at that point. I wanted to like go experiment and do a little bit more. So fast forward, I said, yes, I need long-term treatment because I know 28 days is not enough for me. So I went to a 6-month treatment program. I was there for about 5.5 months, and I was on drug court. I ended up being sentenced to drug court. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So it's basically like a program through the justice system that they use to kind of, it's very strict. It's like probation times 10. You have to report every week. You have a lot, like it's a lot of structure, but it's exactly what I needed. I needed someone to tell me what to do because I had no idea what I was doing. Tell me exactly what you want me to do because I'm willing at this point. I'm willing to do something different, you know? So I went to the 6 months, and it was the best thing that probably could have ever happened to me. I needed those 6 months. I worked through so many things in that 6 months. And then while I was there, they're like, you need to go to sober living. You need to do IOP, which is an intensive outpatient program. You need to report to drug court every week. You need to come to court every week. So I had all these things that I had to do. And I was willing. I was so done with using that I was so willing to do whatever you told me to do at that point. Because, you know, like you said, some people don't realize that help is available, but there's help everywhere. You know, like if you want it, it's available. And that place saved my life. From that place, I really think that it woke something up in me that I had never felt before. So yeah, so I did that. I went to Oxford House. I completed my IOP program. I was on drug court for about 2.5 years. So I had to report for about 2.5 years to a probation officer. And life, you know, I got a job at Dunkin' Donuts for my first job ever getting clean. I was working at Dunkin' Donuts. I was living with a bunch of females that I had never done before, you know, really tried. And everything just kind of, I mean, I was a crazy person when I first got clean because I was so angry. I don't know why I was so angry, but I felt every emotion times 10. But I mean, I can't really explain to you how much life changes if you're willing and you have that. I really believe in a moment of desperation, like just being so tired of using that you're willing to do whatever it takes to change. You know, and since then, I I went to school. I'm a mom now. I have a good job. Like, I'm a productive member of society now. You know, like all of those things that I never even thought that I wanted or needed, I have now. Um, life is not easy. There's always things that come up. You know, life will hit you every which way. But I know that as long as I hold on and I stay clean, I'm going to get through it because I always do. You know, like looking back, 3 years ago, I was going through whatever I was going through. But now, you know, it's like fast forward, you don't really think about all of those things anymore. But in the moment, it feels so dire and like it's the worst thing in the world. But we always get through it as long as I stay clean.
You know, you've brought up just a whole bunch of, first of all, remarkable story. You've been sober for what, at least 3 years now?
No, I've been sober clean for 13 years.
13 years. Good for you.
Yeah. So that was like 2015. I graduated recovery
Okay.
course. Yeah.
Very cool. You know, you talked about, you know, just kind of going back to the beginning, right? There was this craving to want to hang out with the older kids. You know, I can understand that. I
Mm-hmm.
think that, you know, when we start incorporating the things that older kids do, like unfortunately drugs and or just simply drinking, right? We start stunting our emotional maturity, right? We may feel mature enough from a physical sense and maybe
Mm-hmm.
a relationship sense, but we're not emotionally stunted. You know, we're emotionally stunted. And so obviously getting clean, right? That emotion is raw because now all of a sudden you have to process everything without some sort of
Mm-hmm.
substance running through you, right? So I can definitely empathize with that because I felt the same thing. And that's what ends up happening with drugs and alcohol is that we start basically masking all those things that we don't want to feel anymore, right? And whenever we feel bad, well, we just go to our thing and then we feel better and we just kind of get on with our life, right? We don't process anymore. Um, and yes, we've all got a storybook of shameful things that we did.
Mm-hmm.
Some things that are downright miraculous that we didn't die. You know, and obviously you were at the doorstep, and so that's you definitely had an angel in disguise that day that took care of you when you had OD'd. And I think that there are angels walking around the face of the earth that are doing just that for those that are hurting. You're right. 28 days isn't enough for anyone. I am, but you know, the willingness to change your life, I think, is such a huge. It's the first step to getting clean, right? Because we can deny all day long. We can contemplate if we have an issue, but until the point comes in our life where we go, "Hey, I'm done." Done, done, done. Because that's what happened to me. I've got a very young sobriety. I've been sober since August 24th, so I'm not even a year yet. And
Okay.
mine was 20 years of alcohol and marijuana. And there was a couple stints where I quit drinking for a good couple of years, like maybe up to 6 years at a time, but I was still smoking daily. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized that I just wasn't processing things. I've had some trauma in my life that was very difficult to handle. And so I just assumed not deal with it, not process it. And so I was stuck, you know, at an emotional age that was younger than what I am. So, you know, I can appreciate just, you know, those things in this journey that we have. Because, yeah, if all of us recognize what addiction really was, you know, the first end where we felt like we were getting out of hand, nobody would be an addict for greater than a couple of weeks, right? They would, you know, but this thing creeps in on us and all of a sudden we have years under our belt and something that we're now, it's a vice in order just to get through the day. Um, what as far as spirituality, do you find yourself you're spiritual now, or how's your faith?
I have a higher power.
Yeah,
I don't, I would say spirituality, yes,
yeah,
but, you know, not, I believe in God, you know, but
yeah,
I'm not, like, I don't go to church or anything like that. But definitely, you know, I meditate, I pray as much as I can. I think I could definitely be better in my spiritual realm, but it's definitely there and it
yeah.
carries through.
I hear you. Yeah, it's just something that I was just personally curious on, because yeah, I think that, you know, I think the relationship does change because life is better clean, right? Life is better sober. Sure, we still have to deal with the same shit that anybody else would have to, but we're at least sort of clear mind and body in order to address the struggles in life. And pain is inevitable in this life, and it's there for a reason, I believe. What's what sort of things did you find were very valuable in your rehabilitation education? What are the things that you still like carry with you?
I think a lot of it was like the groups that I had in treatment at the long-term program that I went to. One of the counselors, he was very amazing, and he would push things out of you. He would get you to talk about things you did not want to talk about. But that place, it just, I talked about grief, I talked about shame, I talked about being a child of an alcoholic, having that black and white thinking, and just actually dealing with so many things. And I felt like I could trust my counselor so much that I could tell her anything and she would just look at me and nod. She would not judge me. And they do a thing at this treatment facility. Well, it's different now, but they used to do this thing where before you left, you had to tell a secret that you held on to. And it was just like so amazing, like being free of that. And we even worked through trauma, dealing with sexual abuse and all of that. Like we actually processed so many things, and that is truly what I needed. I needed to face all of these things that I had just stuffed down. I needed to face them and actually be like, okay, these things happen to me, but they don't make me who I am. They're not going to hold me back anymore. Like, I'm not going to be a victim to what someone else did to me, or, be a victim of these things that happen, because people always go through things, and it's okay, but we have to get through them. We can't allow them to pin us up in a corner and not move. And that's how I was.
Yeah. You brought up a couple other good points. Secrets, yeah, it was absolutely liberating for me to do the same thing, because I had a couple things that I was holding on to that once I relinquished it, everything was just so much lighter. But it is a blessing to have, because I know that a lot of counselors are people that have struggled with addiction themselves, and so finally meeting somebody that you can be truly raw with and not be judged because of it, I think that's a sacred thing, to have that community, right? That sober community that understands you, and because again, there are people in this world that don't get it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's important again to separate the disease, right? This is a disease, right? This is something that it's I always say, we don't somebody that has diabetes doesn't say I am diabetes, right? They say I have diabetes, right? And again, I have a disorder, and it affects me in a whole bunch of peculiar ways.
Mm-hmm.
With regards to triggers, do you find that you have any still, or do you feel like they're all gone?
I wouldn't say that. I think it's different now, because I think after so long that clean or sober, the triggers change, where it's like, okay, I'm an adult now, I'm older, and I'm at a wedding, or I'm at a birthday party, and these people are drinking, and it looks fun, like it looks nice. I never got to drink like a nice cute little martini, and I'm like, oh, that martini looks very, very good. But I think that's kind of how I get triggered. But I'm like, okay, I know me, and I know that if I was to ever relapse, like I would drink one time and then I'd be off to like what I really want.
Right.
That's just how it is. It's a little different, but yeah, it's like you have to find like an acceptance that no matter what, I can't drink or use.
Yeah. Um, you obviously said that you have your meditations and you pray. Any other sort of new routines that that you've that are new in your life that you didn't think about, that now it's something that's extracurricular for you that helps you?
Yeah, so probably about, I want to say 3 years ago, when I first got clean, I was like a workaholic. I would just work,
Mm.
work, 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 work. But then probably about 3 years ago, I really started getting into fitness and working out and doing like this one certain like class. It's like a hit workout. But mentally, it has helped me tremendously. It's now one of my coping skills to get through. When I'm going through something stressful, I can go to the gym. Like that's for me as an outlet. I feel like I'm not like, oh, I have to go to the gym. Like it upsets me when like days go by and I can't go. And I'm like, oh crap. But then when I get there, it just makes me feel better. So that's definitely one of my routines. I wish I could tell you that I love to wake up early and do all these cool things, but I don't. I like to sleep. That's a routine for me that I love to do. But I just try to put self-care first. Like I'll go get massages or I'll go get my nails done, just
Right.
like things for myself that are only for me.
Yeah, me as well. I'm definitely big on the self-care, because again, if we're not good for ourselves, right, we can't be good for anybody else. And when we're in our addictions, right, that usually takes up time in our life. So not having to deal with the time that we do dealing with our addictions, right, we're left with all this vacant time. And so now we have to fill it in a sense, right? But not, again, not become a workaholic, not become out of balance in some other way, shape, and form, right? Because that's just not healthy either, right? So I'm the same way. I try to keep myself occupied in exercise and fitness, try to make sure I'm paying attention to my diet, right? So it's, it is mind occupying. Um, what sort of gems of wisdom would you like to share with somebody who you think that might be in your type of situation? What would you say to them?
Something when I was going through addiction.
Well, just as far as like if you were to meet your younger self in the form of somebody else that was dealing with this, what would you say to them? How would you help them off the ledge?
I mean, I would say don't even open up that door. Don't. And if it does open, then that's another story. But just really get to know yourself, get to know who you are, what you like, um, and know that it's okay. You don't have to be the person that everybody else wants you to be, or you don't have to like escape through eating or using or people. Like just be yourself and allow yourself to just go on a journey of life, enjoy life. Because I mean, I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I would say, I would just say, read, study, stay in school, like really, I think those are the things that I didn't do. I hated school. I sucked at reading. But if you really focus on it, like all of those things are important. Like being a child, allow yourself to be that child that you are. Don't grow up so fast, because
Right.
I tell my daughter this too. I tell her, I'm like, don't grow up fast, like just enjoy who you are right now. Enjoy this person. I mean, she doesn't understand what I'm saying, but you know what I mean? Like
She's
I'm just,
4. Yeah.
it's very valuable, I think, to be present and
Right.
enjoy where you're at and not always look for the next thing, that's around the corner.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Future thinking, as well as dwelling on the past, I think are both very deadly things that rob us of the present. Right. Um, but I think that that's beautiful. I'm excited for you and for your life, and for the short time that I've gotten to know you so far. I'm excited to see where you're going from here, and I think at the very least you're definitely a strong advocate that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that people can get better, even when it seems like all hope is lost. I don't really have anything else for you. I think that we've done quite a bit here tonight, and I'm going to leave it open to you if there's anything else that you want to say. But I think there maybe comes a point when we can do a check-in, maybe down the road, and touch base and give you time to process this interview as much as I will, and I may have some more questions down the road, and just in just our development, right, as human beings. I think this is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was just gonna say, do you work in the addiction field, or is that something that you want to do?
Well, it's interesting. I've been to NA meetings and AA meetings, and one of the steps, right, is of being of service, and I feel like this is a good way to be of service for those that, and I've been able to talk to. I've had interviews with people that are NA speakers. I've been through, a full 30-day detox. Then they addressed my mental health aspect of it, which was very important for me because I realized that I was dealing with things on that end. And so for me, medication's been saving. It's been highly saving, because I know I'd probably be bouncing off the walls without it. And so this has provided me a use of my creative juices to be able to do this podcast. And I've been through an IOP. I've finished an IOP as well. I've done. I'm in an aftercare program, and I've actually got myself now a small local community of guys that we just go and we'll sit and hang out for an hour or so once a week, just to kind of touch base and see how everything's going. And and addictions of all ranges, right? Cocaine, Adderall, prescription pills. It's really interesting how, right, there's so many different ways in which somebody can get addicted, but yet the struggle is all very similar, right? And that's something that I want to convey to people out there that just think that nobody understands me, nobody understands what I've been through, nobody understands why and how I cope this way. You know what? We get it. We so get it. And we're not going to judge you for it because we've been on that side. And so I think that, that there needs to be, there's so many opportunities, like you said, to get help. And there's so many people that get it and care. And they're not going to be, looking at you, like a judge, jury, or executioner. They're going to be looking at you as a friend and somebody that wants you to get better because they've gotten better and they know what it feels like. They know that there is hope. And there's beautiful things. There's so much to accomplish in being present and sober in life. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing that you guys do that. I think, what they say in meetings, men with the men, women with the women, but there's an amazing bond that you can have with other, men or women in recovery.
Yeah. And I think that it's always important. I'm so thankful that you wanted to take part in this because I want as many different perspectives on, the struggle, what that looks like. Because I think, like I said, it's one small jewel or something that, just totally sees themselves in the other person and says, they get it. This is exactly the way that I feel. I thought my family doesn't get it, right? Because the worst thing we can be doing is being surrounded by a bunch of normal people, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's the worst. And I have it in my family, even though I have addiction on both sides of my family. I have, for the most part, everybody in my immediate family are normal people, and they don't get it. Yet they've seen it in their parents, and so it's kind of remarkable. But it is what it is. So yeah, it was the best decision I ever made in my life. Best decision by far. And I felt like I accomplished a lot. And when I was, even when I was under, right, I did a lot. I did accomplish a lot of things, and I'll never forget it. I told it to a counselor when I was in my 28 days. I'm like, hey, when I was high or drunk, I did this, and this, to better myself in my life. And he goes, wow. He goes, just think about what you would have done if you weren't. I was like, well, yeah, he got me there.
Yeah, right.
Right. So, anyway, Julie, I'm gonna let you have the rest of your Sunday evening, but I appreciate the time. Okay.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. You take care. Okay.
You too. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.